do. What they're doing is they're trying to shut down competition from one group to another so that they can control, like I said, every aspect of what you buy. So if you can put the farmer and the butcher and you can put the rancher out of business, then, you know, it won't be hard to control what gets sold at the store as far as protein and nutrition. You want to be able to control that. That's obviously what's going on.
Investors could still see some of the strongest price action in gold this year, according to Wells Fargo, which sees signs of a developing rally. Money managers believe we could see inflation reach new levels that we have not seen since the Jimmy Carter era. For centuries, investors around the globe have turned to gold in times of economic uncertainty. Gold supplies have flipped from excessive to deficient, and such times in the past have sparked some of gold's strongest price rallies, unquote. Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the No Fee for Life IRA. So go ahead and give the folks at Patriot Gold Group a call to discuss physical gold and silver. And the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 5 years in a row from 2016 until present. Click the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video.
There's plenty of people that wants to work, and the only reason the food's not getting this to people in places and there's shortages is because they have been designing it that way the last year or so for sure, getting ready for natural shortages. They want you to be used to the new reality where things are hard to get, they're expensive, and you're not supposed to be hanging out. You know, and I was thinking that 6 feet thing, me and my son were walking in Walmart and I kept seeing those stickers everywhere on the floor, remain 6 feet apart. And then I realized that at every place that those stickers are at, there was one of those bubble cameras, security cameras above it, right exactly where the sticker is. So I was thinking maybe that's a problem with the AI, is it has maybe a little issue. You know, when people are standing too close together in groups and stuff like that, it wants to get a clear facial shot and a recording of your gait that's unique to you, even beyond your face. And then at the same time, they're pinging Wi-Fi off your phone and, you know, seeing where else you've been shopping. You know, people still holding on to the idea that things haven't changed this much already.
It's just as insane as the excuse of the chicken shortage. They're trying to say that because McDonald's and Bojangles and Popeyes and a few others, they listed a handful of 5 or 6 of them, fast food chains here, Wingstop is another one, had put out such amazing, most mind-blowing, unbelievable new sandwiches that everybody's running. It was such a viral campaign for all of these fast food producers that everybody bought it out because there was such demand for everything because it was so viral, and everybody's out there shopping, getting like 10 sandwiches. They're causing a shortage because you are buying too many because it's viral. And this is the message that they're suddenly giving is, what is it again? It's your fault. You are causing the problem because you're buying too much. Now, where have we heard this again and again? Oh, it's your fault. You are, fill in the XYZ. You are, I'll do the easy, I guess the lowest hanging fruit here. You're causing the climate change because you're driving a car.
Yeah.
But here you are again. The human is the problem for everything that's on this planet. Forget the sun changing the magnetosphere and forget about how the earth warmed and cooled for the last couple million years naturally without the car. I'll even give you, and I'll be a devil's advocate and go here, the last 5,000 years. And how does the temperature drop 3 degrees Celsius? It goes up 2 degrees Celsius, back to baseline, up and down. No SUV required. Sun required. Electromagnetism required. No SUV required. But again, what does it point back to? You are the problem for causing the shortage because you're consuming too much. How many times can they use this excuse?
You breeders, you eaters. If it ain't that, it's because you farm and you have animals and they fart. I mean, the reasons for things are ridiculous. Maybe it has to do with Kentucky Fried Chicken is going to go with grown meat after all. Now, I don't know if you technically call that clone meat, so I don't want to call it that, but it is grown and then you eat it. So I don't know if they're growing the secret herbs and spices right into the meat, or, you add that later. But more and more, I think this is what's going on, is just like certain tech giant have said in the past, that they don't want anyone eating natural foods. They don't want you to eat your homegrown greens and vegetables. They want you to eat the GMO variety that they sell and that they produce and that they provide. And now it's the meat. And like you said, they always use the same excuse. It's your fault. You're doing something wrong by living out your normal human life. Chicken shortage. Give me a break. They're like the easiest produced fowl in the world. And China and the United States has plenty of resources, chickens. That everybody could have 3 or 4 chickens at a very cheap price today delivered to their house every day. It's ridiculous, the whole thought of it. And you remember last year we covered it. They destroyed a lot of food. They turned under vegetables. They killed poultry, swine, beef, all for only one reason I could see, in my opinion, is so that you couldn't get a hold of it at a cheap price, and that they could set the price, get you used to paying higher prices and having less available. That way they can control every aspect of not only your behavior, but your wallet.
Yeah, that would have been the United States Department of Agriculture for anybody who was wondering who they were in that ag business. Yeah, the USDA had destroyed so much food last year, and it was really kind of criminal the way it was done. There's a lot of starving people and a lot of people that don't have resources on the planet in terms of money. How much would that have helped any populace of any country if they had given away that food? They culled how many herds of cattle and just buried those carcasses. How much food could that have provided for a family or families or neighborhoods or communities? And, instead of throwing it away, just why don't you put out something in the community? All right, we're going to have to cull all these animals. Come on by. And if you have any butchers, just like we did in the old days, barn raising parties. Well, why couldn't they have, cow butchering parties or something like this where you come in, okay, vegetable picking party or whatever it would have been. If you're going to have a barn raising event, you should have events surrounded by agriculture where the community's involved. I mean, Facebook works fine. No, don't use Facebook. Any other way to communicate, like Line or Telegram or Signal or maybe Threema, or there's a few others out there to try to get groups online. But that food should not have been wasted. It should have been a community event to harvest everything that was going to be tilled under to feed the community for free. But no, that you would have given somebody a leg up. And I really do not like the way the corporate interests at that time and the corporate agribiz decided to absolutely waste the food. They didn't even turn it into fertilizer. They just buried it in big pits. Waste it versus helping people with it. And that was allowed to go on. Rose your price, and look at all the money's being printed. It's just not going to stop. This food price increases are always the thing that really sets societies back. So you look back through history, about every 400 years, you see these massive setbacks, and you always wonder why they get set back. Well, we use paper money today in central banks and, fiat and bank cards and all this. You go back to 1650. What were they using? Obviously, gold, silver, tradable animals, a few other things for barter trade. Go back to the 1300s, sport or minimum. What happened then? What were they using for trade? They were using gold and silver and animals and a few other things. Well, what caused the collapse of almost all the societies, kingdoms, fiefdoms, emperors? Lack of food. So here we are with the lack of food, born again, and it just keeps tightening up the thumb screws with the availability of food. And it just really makes me sick that they wouldn't give people that food. And I know I rambled there, Ransom. I'm done.
No, it is sickening because they know people could use it. It's the same thing like whenever in the past the government has rated people having big cookouts and stuff because they said that it hadn't been inspected by the USDA and therefore they couldn't eat it in a public platform like that, and they'd come destroy all the food. It was good food like potato salad and stuff like that. This really is like a lame Western plot to like an old movie about ranchers or something. The way that they're trying to do, what they're doing is they're trying to shut down competition from one group to another so that they can control, like I said, every aspect of what you buy. So if you can put the farmer and the butcher and you can put the rancher out of business, then it won't be hard to control what gets sold at the store as far as protein and nutrition. You want to be able to control that. That's obviously what's going on. You could call it super corporatism, but whatever it is, the billionaires and big powers of the world right now are really flexing their muscle in the way that they're buying up everything. They're stopping, supply, even though there's plenty of demand. And they continue to use this just-in-time shipping thing, which wouldn't even have worked out if there was any real emergency at all, with food production. That would have put a big spot right there where people weren't getting nothing. But just on top of that, they're simply sending less stuff to less locations on purpose. And I think it's similar to, like I said, one of these old Westerns where they go kill all of the cattle at the next ranch or whatever. They're also doing this thing right now where you could call it starving your enemy out by giving them less and less nutritious food and less options to get it, meanwhile hiking the price up.
That fits right into the Barcode for Life project with a lot of the tech companies and individuals as well. So if anybody hadn't heard when Ransom and I talked, well, this has been about a couple months now, this Barcode for Life, the idea is to first genome mark every species on the planet and then put, I guess, like a protein marker in there that it's been changed just enough that it's now patented. And if somehow, let's say a seed from a hickory tree landed on your property and grew, you would then have to pay a user fee to be able to cut that tree down off your property. Now, for us in this first generation, it's just going to involve things like chickens and cow and whatnot. But the second generation, when things are in a longer duration grow phase, everything on the entire planet is going to have a barcode and who owns and who has registered that. And we're beyond the GM phase here, where now the insertion of proteins in there changes it enough where it can be patented. So think about the gigantic leap that was before to have straight up genetic modification compared to inserting a different protein inside there. GM, we know what it's like when it's in the fields. It can jump and it can move to other farmers' fields. And, you hear these lawsuits all the time about, I don't know, I'm going to leave. It starts with an M, and they go in and they'll sue a farmer because even though they're organic, they found some of the GM crop popped up in the field next door, and they're like, you're not paying the licensing fees and all this, whatever. Well, but the protein insert to decide what the new species is. So hickory tree A127 had this protein inserted to it, but suddenly you have that on your land too. And they're like, well, you got a tree on, you're going to have to pay a user fee for those trees. Now, the ultimate goal is to tag everything, barcode everything, protein insert everything on the planet. Now, if you're an individual land owner and you buy trees, and you like gum trees, hickory trees, walnut trees, whatever it is, either you harvest the nuts from that, you'll have to pay a user fee. And if you actually cut the tree down and use it for something on a fence, or maybe you cut some board out of it, there'll also be a user fee. And in addition to that, you'll be taxed on it. Now, not taxed on your land like we understand land tax right now. You'll be taxed as an individual basis. This is what I've been told. The enormous amount of satellites and the new satellite networks going up are part of surveying this, because we look at LiDAR. There's an enormous amount of other types of radar penetrating, ground penetrating, whatever it is, earth layer penetrating radars, but they can also tag every single species of plant across the surface of the planet. And at that point, you could be mapped out, and then you'll have to pay a user fee to unknown entity at that point. But that's the direction it's going with this Barcode for Life. And heaven forbid they would teach you how to raise your own chickens so we're not stuck on a supply chain. Heaven forbid they would teach gardening classes in a school, and something usable for a change might work for our society to move us forward and get a little bit of self-sufficiency so we don't have to rely on these supply chains. But them trying to barcode life by protein inserting, and then they got all the GMO out, so you're getting like this double layering now of control. I don't like the direction it's going myself.
Well, here's a weird idea. I'm a firm believer in the idea that they use Hollywood to project ideas that are current or just about to happen. and they frame it in a way that it looks super sci-fi, so it's unbelievable. And some example of this, which is a scary future, if these transhumanist elite people get so crazy that they feel like natural life itself is a competition to their control system, meaning, they're creating lab-grown animals, plants, etc., by design, by editing, by splicing, by designing new life in a way, just like you're saying with the food. If they got it to some point, it will be a weird future thing, kind of like I can name several different movies, and they also tie together in another way. So I don't know what they're trying to tell us with this, but you think about Blade Runner as one. There's a show called Raised by Wolves that's made by some of the same people. Then there's the Aliens and Predators thing that's kind of about bio creations of an extraterrestrial kind. But what's weird in all of those movies is sometime off in the future, animals become so rare that they just make them like people. They just make people and animals. And then you would think at that point, the real animals and plants would become competition to the corporation's products. So you can think about it in that robot way, but it is weird with all those movies, the robotic creatures all have white blood. I always thought that was really bizarre that they keep showing that. But my point really being is that in all of these, they show corporatocracies take over, and nature itself becomes a competition to the corporation and to the elite that believe in their mind they're the controllers and designers, architects of society and the planet itself, because they're at the point where they're trying to play God. And in my opinion, I kind of have a little bit of faith that some of the stories that you read about in cuneiform text, some of them are based on maybe true events. So it is possible that sometime in the past, another civilization had the power of the gene and the power of the atom. And I think we're at that point again. And it seems like at that point, the controllers start believing, psychopathically or sociopathically that they are God now, but they're not happy enough with believing it themselves. They need you to believe it. And the best way to do that is to control your stomach and your reproduction. And I'm asking you, ain't that the movie we're in right now?
It is. And please don't forget the power of gravity. Because if you can control electrogravitics and you could control that base magnetic charge, you could make things weightless. And then you could leave the planet's atmosphere. You wouldn't care if you were carrying 50,000 tons of lead on it. It would be weightless. So they could shield whatever they wanted to blast through the Van Allen radiation belt. And if you really did put those three together, they would appear as mystic gods. Because imagine if we had even just a simple iPad and we went and took it back 50 years ago, what a shock that would have made across the world. It would have reverberated and changed the timeline or the fabric of space-time, I think. But now take that thing back 500 years, and you would have had kings and queens bowing at your feet. And it's nothing new for us. It's just tech. So what would happen if a society that was a million years advanced comes down, and I don't even know if we could resonate with it, that would be that far ahead. So you'd have to probably pull it back to 1,000 years advanced from us.